वन्दे गुरुपदद्वन्द्वम् अवाङ्मनसगोचरम् रक्तशुक्लप्रभामिश्रम् अतर्क्यं त्रैपुरम् अहः विशुद्धिज्ञानदेहाय त्रिवेदी दिव्यचक्षुषे श्रेयः प्राप्तिनिमित्ताय नमः सोमार्धधारिणे नमो यामिनीनाथरेखालङ्कृत कुन्तलाम् भवानीं भवसन्तापनिर्वापण सुधानदीम्
So now we have to start with the 16th sutra. The previous sutra was about Dhyana. Now comes the most important Kamakala Dhyana. Atha Kamakala Dhyanam Vaktum Upakramate. Binduna Mukham. Bindudvayena Kuchau. Saparardhena Yonim Kritva. Kamakalam Iti Dhyatva. Let us first understand the word meaning. Padartha. Then we will go into other discussions. Binduna Mukham. Ekena Binduna. With one bindu mukham, the face has to be visualized. Bindu dvayena kuchau, with the next two bindus, kuchau, these tana, the breast of Devi. Saparardhena yonim krutva, and with saparardha, we have to visualize the yoni. What is saparardha? There are two interpretations for this term saparardha. We will see both the interpretations and see how one interpretation is better suited than the other. Saparardhena, sat param. In the matrikakshara, the letter that follows sa. So sha, sha, sa, ha. So the letter that follows sa is ha. Now, so sapara. So ha. Tasya ardham. Half of ha. Now, generally, when we say ha in the Mantra Shastra terminology, ha is also taken to represent the visarga, the 16th swara, not merely the consonant, but also the 16th swara. So, 16th swara is aha, the visarga. Visarga, we know, actually consists of two dots. A is added only for giving a clarity as to how the visarga can be used. Visarga and bindu, that is anuswara, can be used with all the vowels. Okay, so visarga is generally the two dots. If it is in the lipi, in the script, when it is depicted, it is two dots. So tasya ardham means just the one dot. Okay, so saparardhena, with one bindu, yonim kritva, we visualize the yoni. Kamakalam iti dhyatva. Taking this visualization as kamakala. This is taken as kamakala. Now this is the padartha of the sutra. I will give, like I said, another interpretation for the term saparardha. Sapara also means square. So if we diagonally bisect the square into two, what we would get is a triangle, right? Saparasya ardham, half of square. So you can bisect the square in two ways. We are doing it, okay, diagonally. So we get two triangles. So saparardha means triangle. Taking that triangle to represent the yoni. All right. Now, why this second interpretation is more logical is that a very well-known interpretation, or it's a well-known symbol. Yoni is well represented by the trikona. So, if the term saparardha were to derive the yoni, okay, or trikona, it will be more direct and it will be more apt. Otherwise, having a bindu representing the yoni is a very, very rare phenomenon. Okay. So it makes more sense to have the saparardha to mean half of square, that is the triangle. Now, when we have to superimpose this particular visualization using the Kamakala Akshara. Now, which is the Kamakala Akshara? We will come to the discussion part later. First, let us take the conclusion. Eem is taken as the Kamakala Akshara. Okay? Eem is taken as the Kamakala Akshara. Now, when we are writing Eem, the topmost bindu, okay, is to be taken as the Mukha. Then the two sides, okay, have to be taken as the two Stanabharas. And the Yonyakara, okay, the triangle is to be taken as mother's yoni itself. Now, however much we try to visualize this using the Devanagari Lipi, we will not be able to get an correct picturization. And we should all remember, Devanagari is a much later, it's a Lipi which was derived much later. The Lipis used before Devanagari, even starting from Brahmi. When we see the closest Lipi which has an representation of Kamakala corresponding to the Eem as the Akshara, then the Lipi is ЩАРАДΑ LÍPީ. In the ЩАRADΑ LÍPީ, if we are writing the Eem, this is how it will look like. So, if you see this representation in ЩАРАДА, this is how Eem is written. Now, you can connect everything very, very directly. See, with the first bindu, the Mukha, then bindu dvayena stana yugam, then with the saparardha, that is with the triangle, the yoni. Or if we try to do it using the Devanagari, we get something like this. It's not exactly, it's more like a concordant interpretation because we don't have any other option. So we are using this interpretation to see how in Devanagari Eem is written and how we can connect this Mukhana, Binduna Mukham, Bindu Dvayana Kucho Saparardhyana Yoga. Whereas when we write it in ЩАРАДА, you don't have to do anything. It is as it is. So, Eem is the Kamakala Akshara, and this Kamakala Akshara, Eem, has to be visualized. Okay? Or rather, Kamakala has to be visualized using the Akshara Eem. Why do I say that? In the Sutra, Bhagavan says, Iti Dhyatva. Kamakalam iti dhyat. So Sutrakara is very, very clear. He understands that the representation is not the final, the ultimate Kamakala. But just like we use the various pratimas, the Narmada Bana or a Shalagrama, etc., and we have the Shiva Buddhi or Vishnu Buddhi. The famous Puranic statement is Shalagrame Vishnu Buddhi. In Shalagrama, we have to have the Buddhi in the sense we have to have the visualization of Mahavishnu. Shalagrama itself is Mahavishnu, is not the meaning of that Vakya. Similarly, this Lipi representation is for, see, there are many levels of adhikaris. For the Uttamottam adhikaris, for them, they will have the experience at the Paravasana level. But for Manda adhikaris like us, we may require certain symbols to catch on, certain symbols to latch on to. So the best symbol to latch on to for the Dhyana of Kamakala is the Akshara Eem. That is why Sutrakara says Kamakalam iti dhyatva. So this is the Sutrartha. Now, what is Kamakala? It's a very, I will not say difficult, but to answer to this particular question, it requires convincingly, it requires a lot of sadhana and a lot of Guru Anugraha. These are to be generally listened to from one's own Sri Guru. This statement is made by Bhaskar Raya while commenting on the Nitya Shodashikara in the Yogini. He says he will not elaborate more. You will have to learn from your own Guru. Guru Mukhad eva avagantavya. Yet things needs to be explained for the sake of continuity of tradition. If everything is kept as rahasya, then the knowledge system would become standstill and it will not get transmitted. At the end of the day, even though we say rahasya, this is also called as amnaya. Amnaya means that which is transmitted from one generation to another generation. That is how we have the entire stream starting from Adinatha till our Sri Guru, and we have this Vidya transfer. So certain hints are given by the great acharyas to help us understand, but the more sukshma aspects of it, one should ideally learn it from one's own Guru or Guru Parampara. Now, having said that, let us try to understand what Kamakala is. So, generally, Kamakala is said to be of two types, Sukshma Kamakala and Sthula Kamakala. The Sukshma Kamakala part we will come to later. First, we will understand what is Sthula Kamakala. The Sukshma Kamakala is what is explained in both the Yogini Hridaya Vyakhyana as well as in the Varivasya Rahasya Vyakhyana by Bhaskar Rai. The Sukshma Kamakala part. Sthula Kamakala is this Lipi representation or understanding the Kamakala Akshara to be E and taking the Swarupa of Devi as represented by this particular letter. Now, what do these four items, that is the three bindus and the trikona, represent? But we have to know that, right? The first bindu, when we say binduna mukham, the first bindu is called as the prakasha bindu. It represents the prakasha aspect of Parashiva. See, for us, Shiva and Shakti tattvas are connected with an avinabhava sambandha. Okay, one cannot be without the other. But for certain practical explanation, we will have to use Shiva tattva and Shakti tattva as two separate entities. This is only for the sake of explanation. So we are assuming while giving this explanation like that. So when we say Prakasha Bindu represents the Shuddha Chit Swarupa. This Kamakala is a process of understanding the Srishti. Now, why do we have to understand the Srishti? A very pertinent answer was given when I had an opportunity to see a very great Upasaka and a Jnani in Sringeri. He was a Brahmavit. We had a chance to spend some 30-40 minutes with him. In the course of his Upadesha, he said, trace your way back home. Tracing your way back home. In the sense, the understanding of Srishti is essential because only when we know how it happened, we will get to understand or know how we can regain back our true or our essential nature. Because there is no doubt that we are all enmeshed forms of the same Parashiva Tattva. Only difference is that we are suffering from the three mala, and these three mala act as the avidya, and because of that we are unable to know or realize ourselves as Parashiva. That's what Bhagavan also said in one of the previous sutra. Sharira kanchukitaha shivaha jivaha. Shiva, who is enmeshed in the body, is Jiva. So we have to understand the process of how we got entangled with the malas. So we know how to detangle ourselves. So in the Srishti Krama, the Prakasha Bindu, okay, represented by the first Bindu on the top, that when it reflects, okay, it forms the reflects is what is the Vimarsha is about. Vimarshanam, okay, is to see and recognize oneself. So that reflection or Vimarshanam happens in the Mishra Bindu. That Mishra Bindu is represented by the two Bindus, okay. Shiva seeing himself in the Vimarsha aspect. Then the desire to create, the Spanda, that is originated, and that enters again the Vimarsha. And when it enters that Vimarsha, it is accompanied by the ichcha, jnana, and the kriya represented by the triangle. So as the Parashiva, he is Chidananda Ghana. Whereas when the Adya Spanda takes place, there is a Jagat Sisriksha, Srashtavicha Sisriksha, desire to create. As the Upanishad says, Aham Bahusyam. So Akamayata, Aham Bahusyam. So Akamayata, Kamaha Akamayata. The Kama represents the Shuddha Shiva Tattva. Kamaha Akamayata, he desired, Aham Bahusyam, may I be many. And when that reflection happens in the Vimarsha, in which the ichcha-gyana and the kriya, the shakti traya are represented, the Jagat Srishti takes place, or the Tattvagrama starts to expand. So we have Sadashiva, Ishvara, Shuddha Vidya, etc. So that is represented in the triangle. By triangle, ichcha-gyana-kriya, we have to represent. Second, when an example is given to understand, usually why are examples given? Examples are known through which the unknown concepts are explained. So when the example is given in the Laukika parlance, even for explaining a child's birth, the bindu or the shukra from the father, when it enters the yoni of the mother represented by the triangle, and there is a shukra and shona sammelana, okay, the mixture of the shukra and the shona, that is the sperm and the egg, then alone a new life is born. The same thing is applied in the lipi, okay, and we have this visualization of the kamakala through the akshara im. So this is the sthula kamakala. This is the sthula kamakala. So when we are doing this kamakala dhyana for the beginners, this is the process that we will have to keep in mind when we are visualizing the kamakala akshan. Now there is a sukshma kamakala also. Now I was also under impression there are only two kamakalas, sthula kamakala and sukshma kamakala, till Bhaskar had asked a question with reference to the Guhyanama Sahasranama, Uchishta Ganapati Guhyanama Sahasranama. In the Sahasranama, there are two namas which speaks about three types of kamakala. That is Kamakala Traya Vishtaya Namaha. That is one nama. Kamakala Traya Avishtaya Namaha. Another nama is Kamakala Traya Dhyana Sarva Bandha Vimochanaya Namaha. So the Sahasranama says that there are three kamakalas. What are the three kamakalas then? We know from the existing texts that there are Sthula Kamakala and Sukshma Kamakala, two. And we have Vyakyanas by Bhaskaracharya, Bhaskar Rai and others. So while looking for an answer, now this is only my presumption, there is reference to all the three Kamakalas in the Sahasranama itself. Sahasranama speaks about three Kamakalas, naming them. First, Para Kamakala Dhyana Siddhishwaratva Dayakaya Nama. Second nama, Apara Kamakala Mayaya Nama. Third nama, Mishra Kamakala Rupaya Nama. So Sahasranama says there is one Para Kamakala, there is one Apara Kamakala, there is one Mishra Kamakala. Now, what is this Para Kamakala? What is this Apara Kamakala? What is this Mishra Kamakala? There is no Vyakhyana or anything available, and these three names do not occur, at least till whatever I have gone through, either in the Nitya Shodashi Karnava or any of the Vyakyanas, because Bhaskaraya somehow does not seem to have even mentioned anywhere this Uchishta Ganapati Sahasranama. Okay, even in his Khadyota Ganapati Sahasranama Bhashya, he does not make any reference to this particular Guhyanam Sahasranama. We have no idea why he doesn't. Just because he has not made a reference does not mean that the text did not exist. So that's also we have to be very, very clear, because in none of the Bhashyas or this thing, he has referenced Sri Vidyarnava. So that doesn't mean that Sri Vidyarnava did not exist before Bhaskar Rai. He has mentioned or he has even named Acharya Kshemaraja, okay, his Shiva Sutra Vyakhyana in many places, but not in one place. In all the three of his Bhashyas, I have come across the mention of Acharya Abhinavagupta. Okay, so someone who knows Kshemaraja should definitely be familiar with Acharya Abhinavagupta, who was his preceptor. But there is no referencing anywhere. Okay, so these are only speculations. Okay, we don't know why it was not done by him. So what I'm trying to say is, in the existing bhashyas, okay, or any of the texts, we or even in texts like Kamakala Vilasa, its commentary Chidvalli, we don't come across these three terminologies: Para-kamakala, Apara-kamakala, and Mishra-kamakala. But obviously, it has to have some meaning. My assumption is this: when we say using the term Para and Apara, because this term Para and Apara, okay, we have a very good idea where these terms Para and Apara are used, or in what kind of context these terms Para and Apara are used. So when we speak about Apara Kamakala Dhyana, it might refer to the Kamakala which is referred or which is mentioned in the fourth Vishrama of Nitya Shodashikarnava. In the fourth Vishrama of Nitya Shodashikarnava, we come across a particular prayoga or a particular dhyana of something called Kamakala, which is nowhere close to the known, whatever I have explained right now, or the Sukshma Kamakala Dhyana, which I will explain later. Okay, so this prayoga is very, very different from either of the two. In this particular prayoga, what we are asked to do is the 5 Kama mantras or Kama bijas. That is the Hreem, Kleem, Aim, Bloom, Stream. Now, we all know that they are the bija aksharas of the 5 forms of Manmatha. Okay. Now, these 5 bijas are visualized in a triangle with the 5th bija, namely the stream, represented in the middle, because the stream is also known by the name Mahakama. Okay, so this Mahakama is written in the middle, and the others are written around, and the merger of one bija into the subsequent bija is visualized. And for this, the Shruti Pramana is from the Taittiriya Shruti. The question, or there is one Vakya in the Taittiriya Shruti, which says that Ka idam kasma adat. Ka idam kasma adat. What does this mean? Ka idam kasma adat. Ka means idam, anything and everything that is known to us by the term idam. Idam pada vachya. So, idam sadhyatvena abhipsitam vastu kaha kama kasmat adat iti prashnaha. So, what is taken as idam padartha by the kaha? Kaha refers to kama. Answer is kamaha kamaya adat. Kamaha kamaya adat. In the sense that the first akshara, namely Hreem, Hreem is merged with the second akshara, namely the Kleem. Kleem is merged with the next akshara, Aim. Aim is merged with the next akshara, Bloom. Bloom is merged in the last Mahakama akshara, namely the Stream. So this kind of a prayoga is mentioned in the while giving the Kutatraya Upasana. Okay, for each of the 3 kutas of the Panchadashakshari Vidya, there are separate prayogas. In that, for the Madhya Kuta, that is the Kamaraja Kuta prayoga, this is one prayoga which is enlisted. Etat Kamakala Dhyanat Panchakamaha Varanane Mohayanti Jagat Sarvam Prayogam Shrinu Parvati. That is how the in the Jnanarnava Tantra this entire process is explained. So my feeling is that this prayoga might refer to the Apara Kamakala. So the reason for my assumption that this may be Apara Kamakala is when the process is explained in the Jnanarnava, the prayojana, when we understand prayojana, is more to do with what Apara at the Apara level, at the Bhautika level. So when it says that Athataha Kamakala Chakram Vyakhyāsyāmaha Hreem Kleem Aim Bloom Stream Ete Panchakamaha Sarva Chakram Vyapya Sthitaha Madhyamam Kamam Sarvavasane samputikritya blumkarena vyaptam samputa shatchakram kritva adimadvayena madhyavartinam sadhyam badhva bhurje yajati tachakram yo vetti sa sakala lokam karshati. So this is an akarshana prayoga. Okay, so this might be the apara kamakala. Now that leaves us with explaining two more kamakalas, namely the mishra kamakala and the para kamakala. So mishra kamakala should be the sthula kamakala that we have just now seen, because here we have the interplay of the prakasha and the vimarsha shakti, and this particular prakasha vimarsha samarasya leading to the jagat srishti is what is explained here. Therefore this might be what is referenced here, referenced in the Sahasranama as mishra kamakala, and what is known as the sukshma kamakala might be the para kamakala. Now what is this sukshma kamakala? Sukshma kamakala is nothing but ahangraha upasana. Now for the first, that is the apara, as well as for the mishra, we have to resort to the dhyana, okay, visualization and the other such process. Whereas in the para kamakala, it is completely a process or a kind of an anubhava, kind of an experience. So it's more of an experiential knowledge. So how is this ahangraha upasana taken as sukshma kamakala? There also the term aham, consisting of the letters a, ha and the bindu, have to be considered. But what we should remember is, unlike in the previous two prayogas where the aksharas play a very, very important role, here the akshara aham has only a very, very marginal or a negligible role, because this is more to do with a kind of an understanding or an experience. But yet we should know what it is. So in these three letters, a, ha and the bindu, akaraha sarva varnagriha, prakashaha paramaha shivaha, hakaraha antyaha kalarupaha, vimarshakyaha prakirtitaha. A is sarva varnagriha, prakashaha paramaha shivaha. The letter a represents the parashiva tattva. Okay, how is the sarva varna agriha? Someone who precedes all the other varna. Varna means that which can be described is varna. Okay, which means that he is beyond description. Akaraha sarva varna agriha. That is one way. The other way is in the order of matrika chakra, it's a first letter. Okay, so that is not a very swarasya purnartha. It is when, because he is Shuddha Samvit, he is the essential subject, he cannot become the object. So he cannot be described, because to describe you either need to have a guna, a quality, or an action. Without these two, you cannot describe any object. Okay, so he is beyond these two. Therefore, sarva varna agriha, prakashaha, paramaha shivaha. And this tattva is also known by the term kamaha. Prakashaika swabhavaha kamaha, anuttaraksharatma paramashivaha. Prakasha eka swabhavaha, whose one and only nature is of being prakasha, okay, being samvit. Is anuttaraksharatma. He is anuttara. There is nothing beyond him. Akshara, immutable, cannot be changed. Parashivaha, saha kamaha. So this is kama. A is kama. Then hakaraha antyaha. Hakara is antyaha, the last letter ha. Kalarupaha, vimarshakyaha prakirtitaha. The letter ha stands for the vimarsha, and being at the end of all the letters, even in the matrika krama, it represents the entire srishti as a krama. So hakaraha antyaha. It's also called by or known by the term kala, kala rupaha, vimarshakyaha prakirtitaha, and it is the vimarsha swarup. So when we try to understand the term kala, kala is akhila varnantya paramahamsa aksharamayi vimarsha vigraha. This, when combines during the process of srishti, the aspect of combining the prakasha and the vimarsha is represented by the bindu. Etad ubhayatmakam swabhavika paripurna ahambhava shalitvam bindu, ahankaratma. So bindu refers to that where there is an interplay of the prakasha and vimarsha resulting in the srishti. Okay, whereas in the para avastha and the ultimate level, they are nothing but ahambhava shalitvam, what we experience as the pure I, that is pure awareness. So aham is that pure awareness. So kama is a, kala is ha. So kamakala means aham. So this is ahangraha upasana. So sukshma kamakala is, see, I have only tried to summarize very shortly the sukshma kamakala from the this thing, or else a detailed explanation is available in the Nitya Shodashi Karnava and in the Varivasya Rahasya. If at all we have a chance later to study, we can see that in detail there. So sukshma kamakala is vasanatmaka, which refers to the ultimate state of awareness, and therefore my presumption is this refers to that para kamakala dhyana, which is referred to in the Ruhyanamasas. So we have seen that there are three levels of kamakala. Okay, para, apara, and mishra. So binduna mukham, bindudvayena kuchau, saparardhena yonim krutva, kamakalam iti dhyatva. We move on to the next sutra, Saubhagyahradayam Amrishya. The next sutra is Saubhagyahradayam Amrishya. Now, what is Saubhagyahradayam? Saubhagyam means that which is the resting place or the repose of all the elements or aspects such as dharma, etc. So, dharmadi akhila purusharthasya sthanam saubhagyam. So, saubhagya refers to that which is the resting place of all the purushartha. Upadana karanam iti yavat. And it is the source of all the creation. So, what is Saubhagyahradayam? It is not explicitly mentioned, but our Purvacharyas have taught us that Saubhagyahradayam is nothing but the Paramantra. In Paramantra also, just like in the Kamakala, we have the three elements, su, au, and visarga. Here also, su represents the Shakti Tattva, au represents the Shiva Tattva, and the visarga represents the shiva-shakti samarasa. So, Saubhagyahradayam Amrishya is in we contemplate mentally on the Parabij. Now, Saubhagyahradayam Amrishya is for everyone, not merely for the Panchadashi or Shodashi Upasakas. For everyone, since even if you are a Panchadashi Upasaka, you are entitled for the Saubhagyahradaya Amrishya. Okay, as per the Kalpa Sutra. So, after the Parabija has been contemplated upon, the Balidana Prakriya starts. Vamabhaga vihita trikona-vritta-chaturasra gandha-akshata archite vagbhavam uchcharya vyapaka mandalaya namaha iti Arthabhakta harita ambhasa adima upadima madhyama bhajanam tatra nyasya. So first is drawing the mandala or the yantra. Where should it be drawn? Vamabhaga, on the left hand side. Vamabhaga vihita. So the Balidana mandala has to be on the left hand side. What is the yantra? Trikona-vritta-chaturasra. So a triangle, okay, encircled vritta and having one chaturasra, a square outside. Basically what we use for our Vardhini Kalasha and all this. Only thing is that there is a discussion where the triangle should face. Should it face the Upasaka or should it face the Devata? So Rameshwara Suri in the Vyakyana discusses and concludes that it should face the Devata. So the triangle should face the Devata because the Bali Devata is facing the Mula Devata, which is who is there in the chakra. So the Bali Devata is in in the tip of the triangle. So she has to face the Moola Devata. So that is the logic deduced by Rameshwara Suri. So having drawn the mandala using Chandana and Jalam, the Archana is done with the mantra Vagbhavam Ucharya. Vagbhavam is only not the entire Vagbhava Kuta, just the Bijakshara Aim. Vagbhavam Ucharya. So Aim vyapaka mandalaya namaha, followed by vyapaka mandalaya namaha. So we do the Archana, okay, to the yantra using this particular mantra. And on the top, we place the Balipatra. How should the Balipatra be? Bhagavan gives a very clear explanation. He says, Arthabhakta. So half of the patra should be filled with the rice. Bhakta means cooked rice. Okay? Arthabhakta. The rest, the remaining half of the patra should be filled with water. Harita ambhasa. Arthabhakta harita ambhasa. So half of it is rice, the other half is water. So Arthabhakta bharita ambhasa. And Adima Upadima Madhyama Bhajanam Tatra Nyasya. This is slightly in deviance from what we are practicing. Okay, I said there will be a lot of deviations from the Kalpa Sutra and what we are practicing. We have to just understand the text as it is. It says that you should place 3 separate bhajanas, 3 separate patras next to the Bali patra. One patra having the Adima. Adima is the Prathama Dravya. Okay, whatever we have used as a Visheshargya, that should be kept in a separate vessel. Upa Adima means that which is next to the Adima, that is the second Dravya. Okay, Madhyama, the third Dravya. So there should be one separate patra for the Madhu, separate patra for the Matsya, separate patra for the Mamsa. Okay, so Adima, Upa Adima, Madhyama. Bhajanam tatra nyasya. In practice, what we do is we just pour it in the same Balipatra itself. Sutra is very clear. It says it should be placed next to it. These 3 patras should be placed next to it. Tatra nyasya. Pranava maya ante. Now he says, he gives the uddhara for the mantra, Balidana mantra. Pranava maya ante sarva vighnakribhyaha sarva bhutebhyaha hum swaha iti trihi patitva balim dattva. Okay, so the mantra is Pranava. So Om, Maya, Hrim, Om Hrim, followed by Sarva Vighnakribhyaha, Sarva Bhutebhyaha, Hum Swaha. Trihi Patitva. So 3 times we have to do the Ucharana of the mantra. Iti Trihi Patitva Balim Dattva. Bhagavan does not speak anything about, okay, Talatraya, Krura Drishti-avalokana, and all those things which is there in the practice. So this is actually referred or mentioned in the Shama Krama only. So from Shama Krama, in the Nityotsava, Umanandanatha has taken those elements. All right. So in the Bhashya, there is a discussion. Okay, why should it be brought here? It has no prapti here. But in our practice, we are doing all those as per the Nityotsava only. All right. So iti balim dattva. Now what is this Bali? Bali is, there is a separate devata by name Kurukulla, who is the Bali devata. We are not offering the Kurukulla Bali here. Let's remember. This is called as Sarvabhuta Bali. Okay. If we go by the other Tantra manuals, we have to offer separate Bali for Kurukulla, okay, for Rajarajeshwara, for the Yogini, for the Kshetrapala. Okay, so there should be 5 patras for offering the Bali. But our Parshurama Kalpa Sutra has not made any mention of such things. Therefore, we are using only Sarvabhuta Bali Patra. and we offer only one bali. But we feel so that it can be incorporated, but it has to be incorporated in full. So we should have Panchapatra apart from the Sarvabhuta Bali. Okay. And one more thing to be remembered is the Bali Patra should always be only in copper. Bali Patra should not be made of any other metal, because there is a very clear-cut instruction from Tripura Arnava which says that Bali Patram Tamra Bhavam Naiva Anyattu Kadacham. So Bali Patram Tamra Bhavam. Bali Patra should only be made of copper. Naiva Anyat Kadachana. It should not be of brass or silver, because I have silver vessels, let me give Bali in silver. No. Bali Patra has to be only in Tamra Patra. Okay. So that is one practical tip that you have to